second Wednesday of the month from 7 to 9:30 or so. We also have smaller meetings on the Saturday following the main meeting. These Q&A meetings are from 3 p.m. till 5 p.m. at the JCC, and our general Q&A sessions in a very casual atmosphere. Apple Cider has a board of directors which meets on the third Wednesday of the month, that's next week, from 7:30 until 10 or so, up at Irondequoit United Church of Christ, and any member can feel free to attend that meeting. We welcome comments from our membership. If you're interested in visiting, please see a board member for directions, more specific directions if you need them. If you can't make the meetings but still have a question, feel free to visit our online discussion forums. You'll find a link to those at our website, which is at www.applecider.org. That website also has a board of directors tab through which you can email us with ideas for meetings if they occur to you between our monthly general meetings, or anything like that you can mention to any one of us anytime you're here too. Let's see, we're going to get down to the shopping site. Not yet. Okay. Are there any first-timers with us tonight? You are welcome. Yeah. We're going to pass out a bookmark. Is that the idea? Okay. We may give you a bookmark or information or something like that. May I ask how you found us? Wonderful. Very good. Carol, right behind you there, takes care of that for us. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you came. Hope you enjoy it. And that's what it says. Meetup.com allows us to publicize the meeting, and you just said you found us through that, so I won't have to read that part. Our dues are $30 a year and payable to our treasurer, Steve Ray. Dues fund our refreshments at the main meeting, the cost of renting this auditorium, hardware costs for producing the monthly meetings, insurance, and our annual picnic. And before I forget, please mark your calendars for Wednesday, July 13th. That will be our annual picnic out at Buckland Park. Lots of food, some of which you folks can bring, and some of which we will provide, and it should be a good time. If you have a laptop with Wi-Fi access, please feel free to bring it to our main meetings. We share East High's bandwidth with the whole room. Sit close for best reception. One other note. Oh yeah, we're going to sell the old group projector at the picnic. We haven't decided exactly how, whether auction, direct sale, whatever, but that's an extra reason to come. And
you're looking for like a home theater, projection room, big screen TV, inexpensive, projector is a great way to do it.
Yeah, and we ran it at the last board meeting, and it works especially well if you aim it at a white background. Beige paint was a little, As always, well, I guess we're going to start with our famous Q&A session. Feel free to ask any Macintosh or other Apple-related questions you like, and we'll attempt to answer it intelligently. And then, following that, I think Bob Hoey is going to talk about how he cut the cable and invite input from other members of the club for what they've been doing along those lines also. Bob, is that correct?
Yeah,
it is. And then I think after the break, Rick, is that going to be, where's Rick at now? Rick Harrison is going to talk to us about, and I want to get the name of this thing right here, NeuroSky, the NeuroSky headset, which I gather is a fancy high-tech digital way of figuring out what condition your condition is in.
It's going to read your mind.
Mental activity, and I will provide the negative control. Okay. All right. So I think we probably, yes, in the break in the middle of the meeting, we have refreshments between the first presentations and the second and the last one. And also there's a ladies' room across the hall if you need it. And for gentlemen, Sam unlocked the bathroom down the hall, which was helpful. I think we're pretty much there. Steve?
All righty. Let me switch my camera here so we can see me instead of an empty microphone. So for those of you that can't make it to the meeting, or if you want to rewatch the splendor of the meeting, from our main homepage, we have a live video stream and video archives. So if you can't make it, you can watch live, and you can also watch the videos later. And that takes you to our YouTube channel where you can see the previous meeting videos. All right, I don't remember, did we talk about Apple's quarterly results last meeting? That was some interesting things in the stock market. Apple failed to meet expectations. They made $50 billion for the quarter, but they failed to meet expectations, so the stock price went down. Those of us that don't understand how the stock market works, which is pretty much everybody else, are confused. But one of the things that has been happening is that the iPad sales have dropped, and one of the biggest reasons for that is that there are bigger iPhones out now. So you don't necessarily need an iPhone and an iPad if you've got a nice big iPhone screen. So their revenue was, oh, that's third quarter, I want second quarter. So here's the expectations for next quarter. And if Apple doesn't meet those, stock price goes down again. So I've always thought they should just underestimate themselves just to make the stock price go up. But there's probably something wrong with that as well. So yeah, it was $50 billion in revenue, $10 billion in income for a quarter, which is ridiculous. The previous Christmas quarter, Apple made more money than any company ever in the history of companies. And so Wall Street expects them to maintain that every year. And that often doesn't happen. Unit sales on most everything were either up or flat. And compared to the rest of the PC industry, sales are declining, so flat is good. We're not going down. Especially PC unit shipments have dropped drastically over the last couple of quarters. So if you listen to the stock market, don't panic. Apple is not doomed. Apple is making more money than just about any other company in history. And don't put money in the stock market you don't think you're going to lose. Part of the problem we see with the stock market is the day traders. You buy in the morning and sell in the afternoon and hope to make a fortune. If you buy and then wait 20 years, you're going to make a ton of money. One of the other big things we just started seeing is a escalation, that's the word I wanted, in ransomware. We've talked in past meetings about fake messages you'll get on websites or in email. Some message will pop up and say your computer's locked or you're doing something bad. And they want you to go to Walmart and buy a money pack and mail it to them, or they'll come and arrest you. Then if you stop to think about it, that sounds silly. The police never give you warnings that they're going to come and arrest you. But we're also starting to see actual encryption software that will encrypt the data on your drive, and you have to pay a ransom in order to get your data back. We talked a few months ago about the Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital. Trying to find an image of one of those quickly. Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital spent $17,000 in ransom to get their files back. And we expect that they spent a lot more than that in IT staff trying to solve the problem before they paid the ransom. But now the latest thing, as we've said, the fake virus warnings are getting popular to trick you into calling a phone number, saying you have a virus, and letting someone get remote control to your computer. Turn on screen sharing while we're thinking about it. They want to get remote access to your computer to clean you out, and they clean out your bank account. It's easier to make a fake virus warning than it is to actually write a virus. So now the latest is a fake ransomware claiming your data is encrypted and when it's not. And the even newer one, just about last week, is a fake DNS attack, where there's a thing on the internet called a DNS flood, where they send so many queries to your web server that it shuts your company off the internet, basically kicks you off the internet. And the fake messages are saying, pay us the ransom or the protection. Wouldn't be awful shame if something happened to your company there. Pay the protection and they won't do a DNS attack on you. And all you have to do is click the Bitcoin link to send them $4,000 in Bitcoins. And don't worry, it's completely anonymous. No one will ever know you did it. Yes, Bitcoin is completely anonymous. They don't even know you did it. The whole thing is fake. They're just stealing your money. And the people that research such things found that this this one piece of fake encryptionware has netted $120,000 in 8 weeks. So that's a heck of a payment for 2 months' work. And it was probably 5 minutes work at their end. Ed? Yeah, fake messages from PayPal and Amazon are very common. Short answer is never click a link in your email because you can never be sure it's real or not. If you get a message saying there's a problem in your PayPal account or your Amazon account or your Citibank account or your Bank of America account, go to the website and type paypal.com yourself. Never click a link because you never know if those links are true or not. And in most cases, they're not. Ed? Websites. The latest thing is ads on a website. So the bad guys have figured out they can buy an ad. So you go to a website, in fact, what was it, BBC, CNN, New York Times, a bunch of really big websites a month or so ago. I buy an ad, instead of selling tires or selling diapers, it's an ad that says you're infected with a virus. And it shows up on a website and panics people into clicking the link or calling the phone number. And it's fake, but it's tricky to know it's fake. One of the ways you can tell is that the grammar is awkward on the messages. Here's a fake one I got from PayPal. It looks real, it's got the PayPal logo, but it's a fake message because it came from p-p.co.uk. That's not PayPal's address. They could have faked that too, but they didn't bother. So the grammar is awkward on these messages. They are overly hype, red flashing lights. Some of the new ones will read the warning to you. Warning, warning, your computer's infected with the virus. We had a customer the other day that said they got an awooga horn. So they weren't even, they brought a web page up, and you might be off doing something else. And in another window, a new ad comes in your website. And then so they heard, woo, 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 you're infected with the virus, and panic. Usually the only way out of that is to quit your browser because the messages keep spawning.
Sometimes you actually have to force quit your browser.
Yeah, one of the things the Windows do is when you try to close the window, it makes a new one. You close the window, it makes a new one. We sometimes call that a tornado because when it was a big thing years ago where you close the one window and 50 windows open. And then you close one of those and 50 more open. So sometimes you can quit Safari, Firefox, Chrome, whatever you're in. Sometimes you can't because there's too many windows open. So you have to use the force quit and force the browser to quit. And then it will quit and get rid of all those windows. Yeah, the bad guys will use big name companies to lead more credence to their fake message. Because so many people have Time Warner Internet, you might believe a message from Time Warner. Excuse me. All right, does anyone have a general question? Sure. You can try shutting down, so the question is, if you have a virus, what can you do besides force quitting? You can try shutting down the computer, and it will tell you the program can't quit and ask you if you want to force quit it. So you can do the force quit yourself ahead of time. But then farther back from that, there are no Mac viruses. So if you get a message saying you have a virus on your computer, it's lying. There are no Mac viruses. You can get a Windows virus through email, but it can't do anything to your Mac because it's written for Windows. Some people will install an antivirus program. There are a bunch of free antivirus programs for the Mac, Sophos and Clam and Avast, and they will find Windows viruses coming into your email. That's usually where they come from, and you can quarantine them or delete them. If you would take that message and forward it on to somebody else, you could then infect them with a Windows virus. So for example, here's one. This is a file attachment. Someone is trying to sell me Facebook information, which is completely fake. And if I would open this file on a Windows machine, it would infect me with something. But since I'm not on Windows, it can't infect me. So in essence, any window that says you have a virus is lying, especially if you don't have an antivirus installed. So if you have something like Sophos installed, it would say Sophos has detected a virus. And so that's another way, back to Ed's question, it's another way to know it's fake. If you don't have a program running to look for those messages, you probably won't see the messages, any real messages.
One other thing you can do sometimes, I had a client that had a piece of malware that was, I would quit Safari, and as soon as I get back into Safari, it would go right back to the same message. So I had to actually physically disconnect the Ethernet cord so she wasn't connected to the internet anymore. I was able to quit it and then get rid of the link that she had.
There's a feature built into the Mac that the bad guys are now using, so we had to turn off this feature. In System Preferences under General, there is a feature to resume all of your windows when you quit an app. So you have a bunch of windows open and quit the app, or restart your computer, shut down for the night. When you turn it on in the morning, that app will open up and all those windows will open again. And if it's a bad window, the bad window will open again. So we have to turn that feature off, and they change the wording on it. On older systems, it says resume windows, and you want to uncheck that. You do not want to resume windows. On newer systems, it says close windows, and you want to check that on. You want your windows to close when you quit the application. You don't want them to resume open again, because if you are on a bad website, it's going to open that bad website again. And Rick's solution works because it can't open the website when you're not connected to the internet.
That's right.
One of the things the bad guys can do is, I'm gonna find the Mac version here, Mac, is when one of those ads come up, they can install more ad software. And that gives you more ads, and there's too many ads already, but it gives you more ads and it gives you a bigger chance of getting a fake ad. And so there's a program called Malwarebytes for Mac, and it will scan your computer for these malicious programs that put ads in your computer. Sometimes the programs will sneak in when you're installing something else. One of the latest ones was Java. When you install Java, there's a little tiny checkbox that says, do you also want to install the Ask toolbar? Well, the Ask toolbar is spyware. It spies on you, spies on every website you go to, and gives you more ads. And so most people, when they're installing a program they wanted, they'll just say continue, continue, continue. And you'll miss one of those checkboxes that say, I'm also going to install this for you. That's because the other company paid them to put that checkbox in there. Was it AVG has a free antivirus program, but they started bundling one of these toolbars that gives you more ads. And it's frustrating, so we don't recommend that one anymore because there's more ads in it. There are ad blockers available. In fact, I'm running one here called the uBlock. And there's a well-known ad blocker called AdBlock that you can install in your browser that tries to block the ads. AdBlock got into trouble because you can pay them to let your ad through. So the bigger companies will just pay them and the ad gets through anyway. So the latest one that we really like is uBlock, and it will not do that, it works really well in blocking ads. The problem is that many websites will not let you look at them when you have your ads blocked. So you get a message saying, there's sort of two levels. You get a message saying, we notice you have an ad blocker, please turn it off. You know, ads support our website. And then there's other websites, Forbes was one of the big ones, that will not run if you have an ad blocker turned on. And a couple of months ago, Forbes got hit with a malicious ad. So everyone that went to Forbes with an ad blocker on were safe. Forbes told them to turn the ad blocker off. So if you did, then the malicious ad installed malicious software on your computer. So it's that catch-22. The ads pay for the content. If too many people block the ads, then the content has to come up with other ways to pay for it. Most of the time, you just sort of weed out the ads in your mind and you don't see them anyway. Yeah. Yes, so the question is about reader view. Many websites, although some of them are turning them off, when you read a story, and I have to find one that has a story. I shouldn't have gone to CNN. I don't want to start that here. So when you see this little horizontal barish thing there in the address bar, if you click on that, it puts you into reader view, which shows you just the text of the article. So it brings up basically a new little sheet where there's no ads, there's no videos. That's the other big annoyance is some ads are videos that play automatically, and then suddenly there's somebody talking to you or there's music playing. So that reader view will open up and let you read that article without seeing all the extra crud on the website. Not all websites do that because they want you to see the ads. But since you did open the real website to begin with, the ad impression is there. And so a lot of websites will let you do it anyway because the ads are behind that window and they did show. Now you also notice, I got a 40 now on my uBlock. I've blocked 40 ads on this one web page. Not for the whole site, just this one page I'm on. And some of the ads will still get through, but you can often see, blank space where an ad would be. But some of the ads came through, even though I've got an ad blocker on. There are ways to get around ad blockers, but it does help in most cases. Vicki, you got a question? So some websites use plugins for additional functionality. They shouldn't. And let me see, it might be Flash. So one of the more common plugins is Adobe Flash, and it's used to play videos like this. Yep, this is Flash. Adobe Flash is a huge security flaw. Adobe has to update Flash every week or two, sometimes more often, because the bad guys have found another flaw and are using it to install malicious code. So when you have Flash installed, you're always getting these Flash out of date messages to update Flash. The bad guys know about that, and so there are fake Flash update notices that will come out, and you're used to needing to update Flash, and so you just click OK and install the bad software anyway. So Apple stopped including Flash with their computers a few years ago. And if your Flash gets too old, Safari will automatically disable it because it's too old and known to be exploitable. So running Flash takes a little bit of extra work to make sure you keep it up to date. If you do get one of those messages about a missing plugin, you should be able to click on it and it will tell you what plugin it's missing. When you want to update your plugins, never click on an update button in a website because again, you can't be sure it's real or not. For Adobe Flash, which is probably the most common update plugin, you go to adobe.com and down at the bottom, it's going to reload again. Down at the bottom is the Flash player. So if you download it yourself and update it yourself, you should be okay. But you have to do that every time an update comes out, which can be sometimes a couple of times a week. So that's frustrating too. Most websites have shifted to newer technology that doesn't require Flash in the newer HTML specs. So if you don't have Flash installed, it will most websites will just use HTML5, which is the new standard. I do have Flash installed because that's what YouTube uses for video. The old YouTube videos are all Flash. The new ones are moving to HTML5. And so I happen to have Flash installed, so that's what this video here is showing Flash. In many cases, you don't need Flash at all. You don't really need to see the ad for the banking services you already have. And so you're safest to not run Flash at all. But if you have to, go to Adobe and get it yourself. Yeah. So yeah, if you go to adobe.com, it will you just download whatever the current version is. There is a checker to see what version you have, but that's even harder to find than the Flash Player update itself, which is very annoying. So it tells you what the current version is, 21.0.0.226, but it doesn't tell you what version you have. It would be really nice if they added it to that page and telling you that you need to update. I'm pretty sure I don't need to update. Yeah. So when you download something from the internet, in case, say the Flash update, you have to go to your downloads folder, find that download, open the downloaded file, and run the installer to actually get that thing installed. Then if it's a browser plugin like Flash, you have to quit your browser, relaunch the browser so it can load the new plugin. And if you're still getting a message that your Flash needs to be updated, it's probably fake and wants to install something bad. It's very frustrating, and that's one of the reasons that most of the web is moving away from Flash, is so they don't have to worry about these security flaws much anymore. A few years ago, Adobe said we're gonna do quarterly updates. Every quarter, we're gonna update our software. And the next week, there was a huge exploit, and they had to update.
I got a quick question.
Sure.
Charlie. Oh, maybe it's not quite as quick. I've noticed that file sharing isn't working anymore. Have you had any problems with that?
File sharing. File sharing is a service built into your computer. In System Preferences under Sharing are all of the different services you have to share information with other people. It can be dangerous on a laptop if you have anything shared, and say you go to Starbucks, anyone else in that Starbucks could possibly get to your stuff because you're sharing it. They would need your username and password typically to get to your stuff, but a lot of people don't have a password, and their username is part of the computer name quite often. So if your name is Steve Ray, I have changed this from past meetings. My name was Steve Ray, so the computer name was Steve's MacBook. Yeah. And so the username was Steve. And so anyone on the internet could try that. And not on the internet, sorry, on that local network. So file sharing allows you to let other people into your computer to get files. They have changed the file sharing protocols over the years. And if you have a very old Mac running an older protocol, you may not be able to get into the new servers. So you have to be within 2 or 3 system versions on each end for it to work consistently.
They're both running El Capitan.
Yeah, then it should work fine. There's a better way to just send if you want to send a single file to someone, there's a feature called AirDrop. And that's built into most of the newer machines in the last 3 or 4 years, where it will find everyone on your local network. And they don't even have to be on the network. It's it also works over Bluetooth. And so here it found you, E. Whose computer is named E? Okay. So if I wanted to, I could drop a file on your icon and send you a file. You would then get a message saying Steve is trying to send you a file. You could accept or decline. So just trying to send a quick file to someone, that's usually an easier way than turning on file sharing and setting up user accounts and that's sort of the old way. But it should work. If I go into my networking list here, here's all the computers on the network. Since we're on the school, it found 415 of them so far. Now, what's interesting and a little bit snarky on Apple's behalf, if you're running a Mac, the icon in the network is that Mac. And for a PC, it's a generic, ugly, beige PC CRT. And if you look really close, it's a blue screen of death. So for your Windows users, that's when your Windows dies and you have to reboot and something horrible went wrong. So that's what Apple uses for the Windows icon. So here's Rick's computer. So if I try to get into your computer, let's see. So
Well, I don't have file sharing turned on right
so
now.
this is telling me you don't have file sharing on, but you have screen sharing on.
That's right.
That's right, because
And
we're going
you need to
to
do
do that
anyway,
later.
So you might as well set it up.
So in addition to sharing files, you can share your screen with someone else so that you can see their screen. It's kind of neat for, unfortunately, it's neat for remote tech support. I can help my mom on her computer by sharing her screen. The bad guys will use screen sharing so that they can remotely connect to your computer to fix your problem that doesn't exist and steal your money. So again, the bad guys have usurped useful technologies for us. But in general, especially on a laptop that you take places, you probably want to make sure all of the sharing is turned off because you don't want to give anyone an opportunity to get into your computer through any avenue. All right, and Charlie? Do you know what version they're using? So the question is people are using Photoshop and Premiere, and since they upgraded to El Capitan, things are running slower. One of the general problems we have seen is that Apple says that El Capitan will run in 2 gigs of RAM. Technically it will. You won't like it very much because everything will run a lot slower.
You better have 4 at least.
At least 4, if not 8. Photoshop loves to have RAM, so you're running Photoshop on El Capitan, you should have 8, if not 16. And the more recent versions of Photoshop. There are compatibility issues that crop up now and then between system versions and program versions. Although I think Photoshop goes back to at least CS5. There is a website called roaringapps.com. And the name is left over from when the OS was named after roaring cats, so they called it Roaring Apps. And that lets you search for apps and see what their compatibility listing is. So say someone is running Photoshop CS4, and we can look into it and see what version of the system it works on. And now these are user reports. This is not anything from the company itself. In fact, Adobe probably says you have to use Creative Cloud version, at least version 1, because they're on Creative Cloud, I think version 3 now, for El Capitan. But users are reporting that Photoshop can work fine, but there are some problems. And that may be the problem your friends are running into if they're not running the most recent version. Yeah. Yeah, Adobe went to a subscription model a few years ago where you can't buy Photoshop or any of the other Adobe apps anymore. Did I just lose my video screen? You can't buy the Adobe apps. You have to rent them. It's a monthly licensing fee. So you have to pay every month to get access to your Adobe applications. And if you stop paying, they quit working. It's $50 a month for the entire Adobe suite. They do have a nice suite, Photoshop and Lightroom for $10 a month. So if all you're doing is photo editing, that can be pretty good. But there are, on Adobe's website, there are tech notes on things. In fact, sort of in general, delete the preference files. The next time you launch the app, it will rebuild those. And see what basic troubleshooting it might run into. Okay, yeah. Where's my bag of adapters? So the question is, how do you lock your iPad? Because his iPad has not been backing up. When you stop using your iPad for a few minutes, it locks itself. The other half of that is when you're connected to power. It will back up. So typically what's supposed to happen is when you're charging it at night, and wrong cable. I was trying to get my iPad on here. When you're charging it at night, connected to your home network, it should back up. The other half of the problem is you have to have enough space on your iCloud to back up to. So if you've run out of space, you have to buy more space, or you can back up to your computer and not back up to iCloud. So generally, just when you put your iPad to sleep, it locks. In settings, general auto lock, I should be able to find it here, is when you tell it how soon to lock. Try to rearrange a bit here and bring the projector up to the iPad. Yes, you can also turn the iPad off. We'll talk about that in a second. So settings, general, auto lock. So when you don't do anything with the iPad for, in my case, 2 minutes, it will go to sleep and lock itself. If you push the sleep button on the top right corner, it goes to sleep and locks itself. If you push and hold the button in the top corner for about 5 or 8 seconds, you get a message, slide to power off. And then that will actually power it off completely, turn it off so it's not even asleep, it's actually turned off. And that's why it hasn't backed up, because you've turned it off. So it has to be on for it to back up. You can check your iCloud space by going into settings, and then, actually no, that's also in general. You can do both of them. Storage and iCloud usage. So this shows you how much storage there is on your local device. So I'm using 11 gigs on my iPad. I have 300 megs free. I need a bigger iPad. And also shows what's on your iCloud. You get 5 gigabytes of storage for free, which is usually enough to back up one iDevice if you don't have too many documents. If you have more than 1 or 2 iDevices, 5 gigs may not be enough. For 99 cents a month, you can buy 50 gigs. And a lot of people end up doing that. And if you go into manage storage, it will tell you what you're using in your storage. And you can also do this on your computer in system preferences under iCloud. So this is telling me how much of my storage is being used. So 3 gigabytes is my iPad backup. If you don't want to pay for extra iCloud storage, you can back up to your computer with iTunes. So you plug in your USB cable to the computer, and inside iTunes, there's a backup button. And you can actually tell it to automatically back up to the computer instead of backing up to iCloud. That's not as automatic. You have to remember to plug it into the computer to back it up. But it's cheaper than buying more iCloud storage. They have several different plans. There are, the first one I remember offhand is 99 cents a month for 50 gigabytes. Switch back to the computer. and $2.99 a month for 200 gigabytes. Yep, or $10 a month if you want a terabyte of cloud storage. So can you pay a year's worth? Yeah, if you're on an annual plan, you can buy a year at a time. Yeah, normally it's you're billed monthly, or I think there was a footnote here. You can pay for a year at a time. So one of the things that we found out about with the FBI iPhone unlock mess is your iCloud data. When you back up to iCloud, Apple has your data. And if someone gives a legal subpoena, Apple has to turn over your data. Some people don't like that. So a lot of people will back up to their own computer so that Apple doesn't have their data and can't respond to subpoenas if they get one. It's unlikely unless you're a notorious terrorist, but it's possible. Yeah. Yeah, so if you're in other countries, the backup prices are reflected in the local currency.
Yeah, and I don't think your cloud data is encrypted either, is it?
It's encrypted in transit.
But not at the destination.
But not in storage. And that's because people forget their passwords. So if you forget your password, you can go to iforgot.apple.com and reset your password and still get your data back. That means the data was not encrypted with your old password. There are issues now. There's a feature built into the Mac called File Vault, and it will encrypt all the data on your hard drive. And it's been there for years, and hardly anyone's used it, because it slows your computer down while it has to decrypt a file every time you open it, and then re-encrypt it when you save it again. So it's been off by default. But now that most new Macs have an SSD, a solid state drive in them, they're very, very fast. During the setup process, you're given a prompt, do you want to turn on iCloud? No, I'm sorry, not iCloud. Do you want to turn on File Vault? And then you can use your iCloud password if you forget your computer password. If you turn on File Vault, all the data on your drive is encrypted and looks like a blob of noise until you put your password in. If you forget your password, it's a blob of noise and cannot be recovered. It's one of the things that they tried to make a distinction of during all the court cases. The math works. Encryption cannot be broken. All you can do is attack the password. So if you can remember your password or if you can guess your password, you can get your data back. But if you forget your password, all your data is gone. So when Apple set up iCloud and backups and your purchase history, basically everything you've purchased in the iTunes store, the app stores, the music stores, is all under your password, your iCloud password. If you forget that password, all those purchases would be lost. So Apple has a mechanism to remember your password, or to change your password, which means that the data is not encrypted at their end. So they can give you your data back when you change your password. A lot of people have called for another checkbox saying, I'll take responsibility for my password, please encrypt my data. And then if you forget your password, all your data is gone. But the vast majority of average people wouldn't like that, wouldn't know what it meant, and so the data is not encrypted at Apple. Messages are encrypted through iMessage end-to-end, but there's some allegation, we're not exactly sure how the inner workings work, because Apple hasn't said that. When you send a message to someone who's not online, it's stored on Apple server until they come online and deliver it to them. So there is some allegation that Apple has a key that they put on the message. So it's got a key on your computer, a key on your friend's computer, and Apple has a key too during the transmission. And if Apple has a key, that means they can read the message. And again, if you forget your password, your Apple ID password, when you change your password, your old messages come back. So the messages in transit are encrypted, but when they're stored on Apple servers, they're not encrypted. And that's a big distinction to keep in mind if you're in a high security situation. Even company trade secrets. It may not be that you're a terrorist, but you might have trade secrets for your company that need to stay encrypted. And so that's something you might want to think about as well. All right, another question? Yep. Junk email. He's getting more and more junk email.
Probably because someone is selling your email address to other companies.
Yeah, what can happen is we're in a, what is the next phrase? Perilous economic time. And companies are looking for more and more ways to make money. Visual Studies Workshop. I've tried to cancel this email, I don't know how many times. If you get an email from a legitimate company, there should be an unsubscribe button in that email somewhere. And that should take you off the list. But what it tells them is that you read the email. So legally, they have to take you off the list. But they can put you on another list. The bad guys, if you get a fake email, the bad guys love it when you hit unsubscribe because they know you read the message and will sell your address to everyone else they can. Yeah, you exist. It's not a dead address. And the thing about sending junk mail is I can send 1 billion messages at 0 cost. And there's no downside of sending 99% fake messages. Because I'll send 1 billion messages with a fake return address. So some people have asked about that. Well, can I report the sender? It doesn't matter because the sender's probably fake anyway. Yep. Yeah, there are some people that say that hitting unsubscribe, even from a legitimate company, can add you to other email lists. Anytime you send a message through email, email is not encrypted, and so all of those from and to messages that addresses that you see in forwards, especially in a forward, someone forwards a forward of a forward of a forward, and then there's this huge long thing with 1 million email addresses in it. That's one way the bad guys get email addresses, by reading those messages that go by. Because your email is not normally encrypted. There are ways to encrypt your email, but it's a pain in the ass. And think of email as a postcard. Anyone along the way could read it. No one probably will, but they could. The other big thing we hear with email and spam is change your email address every year. And then it takes months, sometimes years, for the spammers to get your new email address. The problem there is then you have to tell everyone your new email address. Don't email it to them because then the bad guys get your new email address.
The other thing that you can do is if there's a particular website that's your company that's bothering you all the time, is just say, oh, whenever this comes in, assign it to junk. And it'll go into the junk email folder, and you won't see it in your inbox anymore.
Yeah, you can mark a email as junk. Well, it marks that email as junk and tries to learn what junk is, but the bad guys figure out ways around the junk by changing the message enough so that it looks different. Even though to you it might look the same, behind the message is different code, so it's not the same message, and so the junk filter can't get through it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some of the stuff you asked for, those companies may have sold your name to similar companies that gives you even more stuff. You have to keep marking them as junk, and that cuts down on how much you see.
You can also set up a rule that says, hey, whenever a piece of mail comes in from such and such an address, this is always junk, and always put it.
And delete it completely. The other thing to do is get a Gmail address. Gmail has one of the best junk mail filters, and you rarely see junk mail in Gmail. Ed? Yeah. Well, that triangle means there's an error. And if you click on it, it will tell you what the error is. And then you can figure out what you have to do. Who's your mail server? Okay. We see a big problem with Roadrunner and multiple computers. So you have your computer, your phone, and your tablet. Only one device can check for mail. If a second device tries to check at the same time, it's shut off and mail stops looking because it got shut off. So that can happen if you have multiple devices and they end up checking for mail at the same time. Yeah, and one less thought, and then Vicky. And sometimes it's just the other end is busy. AOL used to say they get 1 billion, was it AOL or Gmail? They get 1 billion junk mails a day, on an average day, 1 billion with a B. And so your messages are sort of in there in the middle. And while they're trying to process that 1 billion junk mail, 1 billion more messages are coming in. And so that error message might be connection timed out. It waited and waited and waited and gave up because it took too long. Oftentimes, that triangle will say go online, or in the mailbox menu, there's a take accounts online, and that will try to go back online and check for mail again. Well, it could be the server is busy at that moment, and you try again 5 minutes later, and you can get through because the server's not busy then. Mail is one of those things that it's continually amazing that it works at all. And Vicky, I guess you get to our last question. Theoretically, that happens. So some ads are location aware. There was, in fact, it was one of the Back to the Future movies. He walked by a building and a giant ad jumped out at him. Hey, Marty, you know. Generally speaking, the advertisers don't do that because most people are too creeped out by it. But if you yeah, they could do that.
Yeah, there are devices that you can get out on the internet that will do specifically that for the company, and hotels and restaurants like to do it.
In fact, Apple was pushing a system for a while called iBeacon, where you as a store owner could set up a beacon, so when someone walked by, they could get information about that thing.
That's exactly what they call it.
And the advertisers jumped on it and said, ooh, that means we can do location ads and push ads to people who walk by, and people got creeped out, and the technology sort of died. Well, it's still there, and probably the bad guys are using it, but we haven't heard too much about it lately. What does happen is if you click on an ad, or you do a search on one device, I see this all the time, especially at Christmas. I'll search for things for Shirley, and then I'll get ads for that thing on my other devices because the ad networks talk to each other. And so Google knows what I was searching for on my Mac, so it shows me similar ads on my iPad. The idea is supposed to be you were interested in that, so we'll show you a relevant ad. But it's now past Christmas. I don't need to see romance novels in my ads. But it can still happen. Someone with a similar email address to you could have accidentally typed your address when they requested you of our information. There are practical jokes that people play by signing up you for a bunch of mailing lists to put your address into a bunch of mailing lists. So now most of those mailing lists and advertising lists will send you an email saying, someone from this email address requested information. Do you want to be added to the list? And you have to say yes. Some of them just add you to the list, and you can prank your friends by adding them to all sorts of mailing lists, so especially porn. Yep. Alrighty, so that's it for the questions. We'll take a 15-20 minute break or so. Oh, Bob, you want to do before the break or after the break? Okay. Yeah. Alrighty. So we've got refreshments out in the hall, thanks to Shirley. And do you have any helpers helping you set up? Charlie, I think Charlie was out there helping her set up, and Bob. What goodies do we have today? Computer. Okay. So we'll come back in 15 minutes or so. If anyone wants to renew their membership, I can take their dues. Lyle's not here, so we're not going to have the Dash with Cash today. I still do have some t-shirts left if you're interested in getting a t-shirt, though. All right, thanks. We'll see you in about 20 minutes. Dues are $30. 40 for a what do we call it? A family plan for people in the same address. All righty. Let me close all this down. iPad is still working. I'm getting good video. I need. So that's that. Pretty good. How you doing? I'm still on mountain life. It doesn't say that I'm pretty good at I do. But you want to do a backup. Yeah. Apple menu, system preferences, time machine. When you plug the drive in for the first time, time machine should ask if you want to use it, and you can say yes. Yep. And then in your menu bar, there's a clock with a arrow going backwards. That's the time machine menu telling you it's backing up your data. And you can pull that menu down and it will tell you when the last backup was. When the first backup finishes, you'll get a message that your first backup is finished too. Whoever you're posting them to is ignoring the orientation flag. Where was it before? Where did it come from before that? Oh, okay. You don't need to do that, but yeah, that's one way to do it. There's a rotate command in the Photos app. There should be a rotate command in Facebook too, or you can use preview. There may not be an icon. It may just be a menu command. Yeah, it's in the tools menu, rotate. Yep. You told it to add his accounts to your computer. Depends on how you added it. You have to go back to that same place and remove it. Don't do it on his computer, do it on yours. No, can't. Yeah, you want to have a backup first, and then you go to the App Store and download the El Capitan upgrade, and then let it install. Yeah. Nothing. Yep. In fact, you missed the 10.9 and 10.10 and 10.11 is the current version. Yeah, so you could install Mavericks to get to 10.9 without jumping all the way to 10.11. Do the backup first regardless, yep. Always have at least one extra copy somewhere in case something goes wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that is. Have you tried turning the routers off and back on again? Oh, cellular LTE. Yeah, I didn't know what that meant with regards to the Netgear rain extender. Nothing. Yeah. Right, to show you're connected to Wi-Fi. Then you're not on it. Go back to settings, Wi-Fi, and make sure you're on Wi-Fi. There's a check mark next to the wireless name. Then you should be. You turn cellular data off and see if the internet still works. That will let you know you're on Wi-Fi and not cellular. Well, you might be connected to the region sender, but is it connected to the previous router, upstream router, the upstream router? And is the upstream router connected to the internet router? And is the internet router connected to the internet? It's the whole chain. If any piece is broken, then you're not on the internet. Yeah. Let's see, when is that? That's August. There we are. Yeah, sometimes it's just too simple and feels like it's not working. Yep. Yeah. Which is often a better thing to do anyway. So in case your password gets out, bad guys can't run up your whole credit card. All they can get is that that iTunes limit. Especially if you have kids or grandkids that like to play with your phone. Go to the iTunes store or the App Store, and it will tell you in the bottom corner. Yes, your the same Apple ID password you use to buy stuff. Yeah, I don't have any credits left. I used up all my credits, so it doesn't show me any credits. 5 or 6 miles. We're almost into the village of Fairport. It changes spelling several times along the way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we always run into problems that Fishers Road and Main Street Fishers are different roads. So people are always going to Main Street Fishers when they meant Fishers Road. Or the other way around too, yeah. 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 We also run into problems with people using, I think it's MapQuest. County Road 42 is, right, but but it turns. And so when you're following instructions, it says you're going down County Road 42, and then turn left on County Road 42. But people miss that turn and they go to Mile Square, which is the next street, and so that throws them off because they don't know you have to turn left to stay on County Road 42 that you're already on. I think Google Maps works, but I think it's MapQuest that directions. But it doesn't say County Road 42 turns. So for Wangum Road, that is also County Road 42. And if you keep going straight, it's not. What does it turn into? Right. But if you don't turn onto Wangum Road and keep going straight there, yeah. But it's not County Road 42. County Road 42 turns. Yeah. And there's a state trooper sits at the bottom of that hill at the fire department to catch people coming down the hill where it just hit a 30-mile speed zone. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How much does a sign cost? 20 bucks? Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm. Really? No. And there already is a car wash, like just down the street. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a house next to our office. Yeah. It was rental for years, and the renters trashed it, basically. Am I too far down? Yeah, this one. Um, and the bank seized it. No, I'm on the wrong side of the road now. Oh yeah? Oh, thank you. Really? I don't know if we'd heard that before. Um, and so so Jackie was looking at buying it because it's a beautiful old house, but we went inside and it's just trashed. There was like 4 families living there with like 6 infants between them all, and they just left piles of diapers and trash everywhere. And so I think the bank was asking 200,000 for it. They want what's owed, not what it's worth. Yeah, yeah. But for the last few days, there have been workmen working on it. And so we're wondering if, no, I'm too far, that's LSI. We're wondering if they're sprucing it up for an auction or someone has decided they want to buy it. There it is. Yeah, that house there. So this is an old picture because there's people, cars and people living there. But it's a beautiful on the outside, although the porch is sinking, and so the porch roof is loose. It's like, I guess the owner lives in Japan, and his son was living there, and no one bothered paying rent, no one bothered paying the mortgage, no one bothered paying the taxes. Yeah. Wow. Oops. Yeah. Wow. All right, we probably should get back. Shirley. Thank you. All right, yeah, Vicky, can we start getting people to come back in? Thank you. I wanted to mention before we got actually started back again, if you're interested in rockets, and who isn't, there is the big New York Power Rocket Show Memorial Day weekend at the Geneseo Airport with the National Warplane Museum. I'm going to be there with my rocket, but these are some of the featured flights. So this is it's sort of the big New York show. So a lot of guys come with big rockets. This is Neil, and that's Neil's rocket. Get it a little bigger there. Neil's rocket is about 3 Neils tall. He's won some competitions with his giant rockets. He's also known as the Dinosaur Man. He has one rocket that looks like a megalodon, and when it reaches apogee, it spits out a bunch of little tiny dinosaurs on the parachutes for the kids to collect. So he's going to go up about 6,500 feet. The one limitation we have at Geneseo is we've only got about a 10,000 foot ceiling because it's so close to population. So we can't have rockets go much higher than that. But 2 miles is high enough. Neil's also going to bring his big Saturn V. Some beautiful rockets people are building. This is what mine looks like. It's about half as big as that. So it's a big fun family event. A lot of them are local, but they come from states all around. There's one guy, Tom. Let's see if. Pardon? Oh, Brown. Neil. Brown. Yep. No, he's in. Well, yeah, he is. Where is he? I forget. East. Past Corning. There's one guy, Tom, who also runs those giant rockets like that. There might be a picture of him on here. He comes up from Pennsylvania. And we always wonder what people driving on the road think about Tom and these giant rockets in an open trailer driving up the road. Kids of all ages launch rockets. We've got some really little kids that will build little tiny rockets that go ping. Nah, not that I know of. Yeah. So there's a lot of giant rockets, but there's also kids fly free. So our family started going down and with Matthew and he got to fly flying free. So it's really neat. Memorial Day weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Saturday night there's a barbecue. It's going to be night flying, so guys will put LEDs on their rockets and they'll fly with sparky motors, so you can watch them go up and down. Pretty cool. Here's a picture of a rocket going up. No. Oh, pigeon. Yeah, pigeon lights. Cool. Can they make them spell things? Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, that's the issue we have with it. So this is all registered with the FAA, and there's flight warnings about for other aircraft in the area. That's why we can only go up to 10,000 feet. But we have there's a competition they call Mach Busters. If you can break Mach 1 or break a mile, that's you win a prize. And some of these little carbon fiber rockets, will hit Mach 1.5, 1.6. Some of them have really sophisticated electronics in them. One guy recorded 17 Gs and got to, what did he say, 18,000 feet at one of the other shows in Potter. So Potter's more in the middle of nowhere than Geneseo is. So at Potter, they have a 20,000 foot waiver. Alrighty, shall we get started again? Bob, Rick, who wants to go first? So Rick wants Bob to go first. So Bob's going to talk about how he cut the cable cord. So we've had presentations in the past from people that can cut down on the cost of your cable TV bill by watching stuff on the internet, and Bob's going to show talk about what he did. Actually, can somebody re-aim? Oh, that camera is aimed there.
This is working, right?
Yep. I just have to
I'm
switch
not
to it.
used to microphones, so bear with me. Cutting the cord. First of all, I want to make clear this is part one, because this is an ongoing journey that I'm involved in. I haven't gone from A to Z, and it's all over. I'm exploring, and on Saturday before the question and answer at the JCC, I host a workshop at my house. It's in the program. You can get the address if you're interested. That's from 12 o'clock until 1:30. Is that right? No, until 2:30. Yeah, from 12 to 2:30, because that's when we can break, and we're only 5 minutes away from the JCC if we want to go to both meetings. Anyway, cutting the cord. It's a multi-step endeavor. I didn't, press a button and all of a sudden I'm changing. I got one system, now I got another. The very first step that I'd recommend to anybody is if you're getting rid of internet, which is a big part of cutting the cord, getting rid of the internet from Time Warner, have a backup. And in my case, I was lucky. Greenlight is in Brighton, and I got Greenlight for $50 a month. I get 100 megabits per second bandwidth. For another $25, I could get 500 megabits per second. And for $100, I can get 1,000 megabits per second. So I think 100 is plenty. But that's first thing, get some sort of backup. So I got Greenlight. I signed up. They ran a fiber optic to the house, and I'm waiting to hear from them. Well, it turns out they sent me an email, but I didn't get it. So I found the email. I said, I'm ready, come on in and make the installation inside. And so I got rid of my router or modem. The router. And I got a ONT, which is a network terminal. It's very similar to the router. And it sits same size and so on. So now I have fast internet.
So let me interrupt half a second there. For those of you that are using Time Warner and have Time Warner's cable modem, you're paying $10 a month for that or more. You can buy your own cable modem if you're going to stick with Time Warner, and save money right off the bat on that $10 a month rental. And with Greenlights, they throw in that box as part of your service at no additional charge.
Okay.
Frontier does too. Frontier doesn't charge you for the modem either. Yes, when you try to cancel services, they will try to give you better services to raise your rate a different way.
And they did. Yeah, try to do that. So anyway, if you're gonna go to cutting the cord, no more cable TV, you have to get your TV from someplace. I've been a user of Netflix on my smart TV for a long time as a free rider. My cousin has an account she pays for. I use her username and password, and I use Netflix all the time. And I've been doing so for, a couple years now. So Netflix is one. On Netflix, you can get 5 accounts, so you have your own account. You can have one for the kids, one for Aunt Sally, or whatever. So I use one of the 5 accounts. Netflix, they have series. I just watched a really interesting British series called Happy Valley. It was 2 seasons, 6 episodes each season, and very intense drama. Very good. House of Cards is on Netflix.
They have original series too, like House of Cards and Daredevil. And
when they come out, like House of Cards, it comes out. The entire series is available that day, so you don't have to wait a week or a month to catch the next episode. There's a new one with Gerard Depardieu called Marseille that just started. Other ones, Damages, Bloodline, Breaking Bad, and so on. So step 3, Dear
So,
John.
well, with Netflix, a lot of the series that aired on other channels and on broadcast channels come to Netflix eventually. So, you know, you mentioned Breaking Bad. You don't have to watch it on AMC when it was out. If you wait a year, sometimes you can watch it on Netflix. So you just can't talk about it around the coffee cooler at work.
Yeah, Mad Men was one like that. It was a great show. I heard kudos about Mad Men for years, but I'd never seen a single episode. And then finally I decided, well, I'm going to watch Mad Men. So I crank it up and I watched, I think there was like 6 seasons or something like that. The last season, they didn't show you the last 6 episodes. You had to wait like 6 months or a year before that was released and you could watch the final episodes of Mad Men. So they still play games with you, but you know, binge watching is a phenomena, and I'm, you know, a binge watcher. I watch a lot of things, you know, one after another. So then comes my Dear John step. Dear Time Warner, hello, I want to change my terms of service. Yes. I want to cancel everything. Then ensues a long questionnaire. Well, what do you like to watch? You know, what about sports? You like sports? You know, and then there's a long pause, and they come back saying, well, we can offer you this package. You know, I'm saying, no, my decision's irrevocable. You're done. Interestingly, like a couple weeks after I had done it, they sent me an incredible offer, $47. I'd been paying $175. $47. And I didn't even really analyze what was in it because the answer was no. You know, I've done this, I'm doing this, and I'm not going back. I can go back anytime.
Yeah, even if you don't plan to cut the cord completely, you can call them and tell them you're gonna and see what deal they'll give you.
Right. That leverage of saying, I'm doing this, then they start dancing and they'll try to come around. They want to get another nickel out of you. But when you're determined, and I was, you know, they were very nice. I was cordial and complimented them on their professionalism, but said goodbye. And when I took the equipment in, they too try to find out why I wanted to leave. Would I like this or that? And I said, no, you're very nice, but thank you and goodbye.
Yeah, it took them like 30 minutes to cancel
They
it.
do. Well, I can always hang up, but I like to play with.
We heard a little bit more about that at Comcast. The guy you're on the phone with gets penalized if you cancel. So he kept saying, you know, once you take it to the store, you know, and return it there, because then the person at the store gets penalized. So the guy on the phone didn't want to get penalized for losing even though he wasn't the one that made the sale originally, he gets penalized because he lost a customer.
Becky. Right.
Yeah, so and that's one of the weirdness about Time Warner. So on the phone, they have some deals. On the internet, they have other deals. So most people we see are paying about $200 a month for TV, internet, and phone. Well, on the internet, you know, they're offering that for $90 a month, and that was as low as $69 a month a few months ago. And then the stores, they have different discount plans. So there's no rhyme or reason. It doesn't make any sense. You hang up and call again, and you get a different package plan at a different price. Well, yeah, so yeah, these prices on the screen are only for new users, but if you complain enough, they can give you, you know, close to retain your user rather than letting you cancel. So they can't give you the new user price, but they can give you a courtesy discount to retain your service. Yeah, so with all these prices, you're adding taxes, fees, and stuff on top, and some of those taxes and fees are stupid. There's $8 a month for the sports packaging tax, but you can't take. So that's basically ESPN on the cable. You can't take that off the standard cable to stop paying the tax. It's part of the, so, and that's because the Public Service Commission has sets, not sets, but regulates the prices. And they've told Time Warner you can't raise your cable price. But they didn't say they could add taxes and fees.
Okay, so having said goodbye to Time Warner, I can't get away without my HBO. And so that's something you can buy directly from HBO. There's HBO Go. If you have it on your cable and you want it on your phones, you get HBO Go, which is free. But if you don't have it any place, you can get HBO Now, which is what I got. And I had it loaded onto my Apple TV, which I failed to mention. I have an Apple TV. And those of you who don't know, it's a little box and it streams things.
And HBO Now is often cheaper than HBO.
Yes,
On
it's
your
$4 cheaper. Time Warner was charging me $19 a month for HBO, and get it direct from HBO is $14.99, so $15. And so with
And
HBO,
that's month to month. So you turn it on, watch Game of Thrones, then turn it off if you want to.
well, it's cheaper buying HBO directly from HBO than buying it as part of a Time Warner package.
Because Time Warner's not taking their cut. Which is interesting, because isn't HBO owned by Time Warner?
Well, I watch Bill Maher every week. I watch Game of Thrones and wait for it to come out. And I watch the talk show about Game of Thrones.
So HBO is more
watch
than just movies anymore.
John
It's-
Oliver on Sunday nights.
Yep. Yeah, so HBO is a lot more than movies now.
There's a device for you. It's called FM radio. It works really good. So anyway, next thing, I've got to get my stuff. And where am I getting stuff? Now I got HBO and I got Netflix. And but what about the 6 o'clock news? So I went out and got a HD antenna, Trinity, I think it's called, and it was $40. I plugged that into the TV and some diddling around, but I got it, and now I get channel 8, 10, 13, and 21. Plus I get 10.2, 10.3, things I never even knew. 10.3 is channel 10's weather, 24/7. You know, they've got weather and maps and so on. You get the weather instantly. So
Yeah, it's
And
free HD broadcast programming.
right, but it's broadcast, so it breaks up sometimes. And some of them, I got a 60-mile radius on my antenna, and it was $40 at Walmart. And
Let's say if people are old enough to remember antennas in the early days, it's the same kind of thing. Although it's weird because it's digital. When the signal stops, it sort of blacks out. You don't get static the way an analog signal would be. It's weird. Yeah, pixelization,
Well,
and the image can stop and freeze because it didn't get any more data.
if I go to a null station, it will static. If I go to 13,
Yeah.
it'll be all snow. But 13.1, that's channel 13.
I think they do that because that's what people are used to, because it's a digital signal. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there. It's not static. There's also a website called Antenna Web, I'm trying to bring up now, that will tell you what angle. So you put your home address in, it tells you what angle to point your antenna to get the best signal.
Yeah, and it turns out with the antenna, there's a guide. I can go to, I forgot what channel it is. Oh no, there's a button on the remote that says guide, and up comes a guide for all those, you know, HD channels I'm getting by the way of the antenna. But it's kind of off. It's off by an hour. What it says for 8 o'clock is really the 9 o'clock.
Are you sure you're not set to Central Time or Mountain
I
Time?
don't know. It's local here, you know, channel 13 Rochester. Why would it be Central Time? But anyway, it doesn't matter. Who cares what? I just see what's on where. And that's another problem, an ongoing problem with cutting the cord. I got to know when stuff is on where. And I don't have that convenient guide that Time Warner kept charging me every month for.
Yeah, so that's an added charge on your bill is the guide that you look at. So you can get, do you talk about apps?
Oh, yeah.
The guide apps?
Oh, I haven't gotten to them. That's part
Yeah.
of my ongoing.
Yep.
Say part 2 of this, diatribe was
Yep.
what I learned in the next 6 months.
So here's some to try. Well, TV Guide, the traditional magazine has an app, and that gives you all your local TV programming and all the cable programming if you want. Titan TV is another one. So there's a lot of free TV apps that you can use your phone and pull the guide on your cable bill.
Okay, so what's missing? Hulu. Hulu is the next service I subscribe to. It's $8 a month, but if you pay an extra $3, 11 something, you get it without commercials. So you get shows like watch Comedy Central, Daily Show, and it comes right in and it goes to the show, and where there's a commercial, it kind of burps and goes right on with the show. You can see that there's a cut there, but there's nothing.
You don't get 2 minutes of dead air?
No.
Cool.
Just, like 2 seconds and it's back on and go with it. So some of the things, like I watched an episode of Grimm, and I got a advisory up front saying this is not part of the no commercials that I'm paying for. You will get commercials in a bundle at the beginning of the show and at the end of the show. But during the show, there's no commercials. So get your coffee while the commercials are on at the beginning, and then watch the show with no commercials, and then turn it off when it's done. So Hulu is big. We get a lot of the shows, but things are funky, and this is where you got to learn how to do it. Like MSNBC was part of my ritual with Time Warner. I'd watch Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes and Chris Matthews, Lawrence O'Donnell, and they were on at certain times, and I knew when they were on. I'd DVR them because I'd always zip through the commercials. Now I can get the same MSNBC content, but it's in episodes. So if I click on Rachel Maddow, I get a 20-minute episode, a clip. But MSNBC's fault now, they don't date the clips. I don't know what day of the week it's from. It could have been from last Tuesday, or it could have been yesterday. I don't know. And there's nothing on the clip indicating when it is. From context, you're listening to the stuff and you say, oh, well, that must have been after such and such happened. But you don't know, and it's confusing. And when it gets done with that 20-minute clip with Rachel, then it jumps to some other MSNBC clip and so on. So you got these little episodes. So it's not as convenient.
A lot of the content producers haven't figured this out yet either.
Yeah, and that's why it's an ongoing thing, because they're going to be adding content and changing things as we go along. So what I'm getting now, for the same price, maybe I'll be getting, 6 extra shows in a year. Who knows? And I'll try to shorten this up, though. It goes on. It doesn't. I could stop anywhere. But I got HBO. I got Hulu. What's missing? I don't have sports. With HBO or with Time Warner, I had ESPN 1 and 2 and Fox Sports 1 and 2. I got soccer games. I was watching the EPL, European soccer, the FA Cup, South American, US American soccer. I watched a lot of soccer in the last 2 years. And all of a sudden, like an alcoholic that just lost his supply. And so sports. Well, there's another service you can subscribe to. This one's $20 called Sling TV. Sling TV is not to be confused with Slingbox, which is hardware that will send your TV to your devices anywhere in the world. But Sling TV has about a dozen channels. It's got ESPN 1 and 2, so some sports are back. It's got Bloomberg, and it's got CNN, no MSNBC. It's got History Channel, Cartoon Channel, Do-It-Yourself Channel, lots of stuff.
And some of those sports channels are also available on the Apple TV, too.
Yeah.
Some.
That's,
Yeah.
part for me to learn about that.
Yep.
But with Sling, it's like cable TV because you're getting the content when it's actually being aired nationally. Like AMC has programming. When Better Call Saul was on at 9 o'clock on Mondays, that's when Sling TV would have it. Just go to Sling TV. I think so, yes. Maybe, I don't know. But I think there's that connection. Well, well, no, it's gone 2 seasons now. And yes, me too. You belong in that show. But Better Call Saul. It's a spinoff of Breaking Bad. But AMC now, AMC comes in Hulu. I get AMC with Hulu. And when I go to AMC on Hulu, I can get Dawn of the Walking Dead, and I can get Dawn of the Walking Dead in Spanish. That's it. I can't get Better Call Saul. I can't get, you know, those other Hell on Wheels or any of those other shows. It's just Dawn of the Walking Dead in English and in Espanol. That's it. So I thought maybe with Sling, I could then see Better Call Saul. But the season is over. I have to wait until they do a rerun of it. And then I have to know that they're doing the rerun in order to tune in at that time to get it.
And so that's what one of the apps would help you do.
And there's another problem. I can't put an app for Sling TV on my TV set. And I cannot put an app for Sling TV on my Apple TV. Doesn't work. So how am I going to get Sling TV, which I can watch well on my iPad, into my big TV? And the answer is Chromecast. I have a Chromecast. It's a $35 device. Beautiful. It's paid for itself a dozen times over. It's in the back. I can go to Sling TV, AMC, or ESPN. I can see it there on my iPad. I just hit the button to cast it, and bingo, I've got ESPN on the big TV.
And it also looks like Sling TV has an iOS app, so you could use the Apple TV to cast that.
Right, I do. I kind of assume that.
Yeah.
I'm using that, but I can't get it from the iPad to the TV or to the Apple TV.
It should go to the Apple TV.
Not according to Sling people. They said no.
Well, try it. So,
Roku, yes.
yeah.
But not Apple TV.
There's also people have seen a Sling TV beta for the new Apple TV 4th generation.
But like I say, this is a thing, and
yep, it's a continual learning process. Yeah,
we're on the forefront of new technology. I mean, I've been planning to do this for 2 years probably. And I finally got around to it, and I'm still in the avant-garde. You know, a lot of people are coming along, so I don't know how many. You know, maybe somebody here already ahead of me.
Here's an article from iPhone Life. Let's see if it's by Todd.
Karen, right?
That you can AirPlay your Sling TV through your iDevice. You have to turn on full mirroring, not just video out.
Karen. Okay, I was paying about $175 for Time Warner. No phone. I've never bid into that one. You know, I got a cell phone and I got a landline. But cable TV with a DVR, $175. Also 2 internets. You know, my phone, well, that's AT&T. But the internet plus the cable TV, it was $175. So getting rid of it, I'm paying $50 a month for green light internet. I'm a free rider on Netflix. I pay $15 for HBO. That makes it $65. $11 for Hulu. It's $76. So that's about $100 saving. But Sling TV, which I'm still on the free trial, but that's $20 So that'll cut into my $100 savings, turn it into like $80 savings.
So that is something to keep in mind is as you add all these a la carte services. That's what we've said for years with Time Warner. We want a la carte. We want the channels we want. But as you add all these a la carte services, it may not save you money if you watch too much. If you watch too much.
Well, I'm limited to 24/7. You know,
Yeah.
more than that, I don't need.
Especially if you're paying about $200 a month that we seem to see as the average for internet and television.
Sister-in-law down in Pennsylvania near Allentown paying $300.
Yep. We had a customer come in. He was paying over $300. There were 9 DVRs on his account. He had 1. There was a Spanish language programming package. He didn't speak Spanish. So what we sometimes think, well, the legitimate excuse for that is you had a problem with your DVR or your cable box and exchanged it. They put the new box on. They put the new box on your account, but they didn't take the old box off. So that's why we're seeing this is a legitimate error. The conspiracists among us say no. They just add stuff onto your bill until you complain about it. And if you keep paying the bill, fine. If you call and complain, oh, I'm sorry, we'll take that off.
So I'm. Yes.
But you don't need a DVR because you can watch any of these episodes on demand anytime you want. Pretty much.
Except for like the antenna stuff.
Right, but yeah, the
for
stuff,
Sling.
the antenna stuff and the regular channels will generally show up on Netflix or Hulu eventually.
But yeah, but you might want like Dancing with the Stars is on. You can get that a couple days later. But anyway, the bottom line with DVR is it's $200 for a DVR that will with 2 channels, and $100 more for hard drive to go with it.
Yeah, so you can buy your own internet DVR.
The brand name to look for is Tablo, Tablo, and but I'm not there yet.
Yes.
Yes, right.
And in fact, so another source like Netflix, Hulu, Sling TV is Amazon Prime, and Amazon has their own content, their own first-run content. I'm in the middle of watching The Man in the High Castle, classic Philip K. Dick story, Amazon. So Amazon Prime it's their $100 a year, and you get free 2-day shipping on anything you buy on Amazon. And they throw in music, and they throw in movies and TV shows. Amazon just in the last couple of months came out with Amazon Prime Video for in that $8-9 a month range. You get all the video stuff without the shipping stuff. But if you work out that $9, $9-10 a month for a year, you're better off getting the whole thing and free shipping whenever. So I'll do that at Christmas to get free shipping, free 2-day shipping at Christmas. And then I started watching stuff and haven't canceled it yet. But yeah, and that's another place to get first-run content and also movies and TV shows left over from other networks. Most likely, yeah. We have on our CIDER homepage, we have a shopping tab that has links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and some other services. And you, anything you purchase there, CIDER gets a cut of it. There's a new service going now too called Amazon Smile for nonprofits, and we get a bigger cut if you sign up for Amazon Smile. In fact, they're asking, I've seen that on a couple of machines I've gone to. When I log into Amazon, it asks me to set up a Smile account so that I can choose a nonprofit organization I want some of my purchase money to go to.
C-SPAN? I never did. Yeah, but I didn't really watch it before.
Yeah, many channels like that, you can go to their website and they have videos to stream there. And then you can cast that to your Apple TV or your Chromecast.
Yeah, and that's true about there's a lot of, I think there's a Jeopardy app that will broadcast just Jeopardy and things like that. So I've got a lot of exploration to do. I'm just, busting out of the egg,
Yep.
And it'll be a while before I fly.
Sony has their Crackle app,
And that's
Um,
for selling stuff. I went there and all the movies there, they wanted to sell me for $1.99 or something.
but a lot of them are also free.
I didn't see them, but more exploration.
On the Time Warner website, you can get the Time Warner news channels. I don't know if they do their Capital Tonight program on the web or some of their other news stuff, but they do do a news video on the website that you can then cast to your television.
For a lot of that stuff too, I've renewed my romance with Chromecast, and so I've been able to, stream things to the TV. I'm doing that much more. Chromecast was there, and it just sat collecting dust for months and months, because I had cable. I didn't need Chromecast, but occasionally I get a soccer game that wasn't on cable. I could get it on the computer and then use Chromecast to cast it over to the big TV and so on. But now YouTube, there's a YouTube channel on the TV. I can do YouTube videos right like that. And I can do a lot of other videos on the iPad and just cast them. The casting is so instantaneous, and
That's becoming a new verb now. We're casting it to the TV.
yeah, that's their term.
Yep.
I picked it up from them. I realized that's what I'm doing. I'm
Yeah.
casting.
And Chromecast is only $35. It's the cheapest of the set-top box. In fact, it's not even a box. It's a HDMI stick you plug into an HDMI port on the back.
The new one's not a stick. The new one's a hockey puck hanging on the end of a dongle.
Oh yeah.
And so it doesn't matter. It's behind the TV. You don't see it. But I thought there for a minute that I didn't have the right Chromecast app to cast that, but I'm good. I'm not sure why, but I am. Right, you can.
Not
I have a
not
27
everything
inch
is
or two.
available on the web. Some of the things you do need an app, but Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, those all do have websites.
Yeah. Go ahead. Are those legal?
There was one called Popcorn Time for a while. Some of these services are technically illegal. They will pick up a broadcast and feed it into the internet, and Popcorn Time was one of those. It was real popular for a long time until they got shut down by lawsuits. And so when these services pop up, you hope it's legitimate and it stays around for a while. But if one dies, you can often find another one that's trying it too. There's also a channel on the new Apple TV where there's one called 120 Sports, which gives you 120 different sports. There's also one, Pluto, is it? I think Pluto TV, that is about 100 TV channels. So it's there's a lot of options available for finding shows you want. What's interesting is you have to start remembering by show. So it's not, Mondays at 9 on channel 8. It's, I want to watch this show whenever it's on. So one thing I'm looking for is an app to remind me of all these shows and go back and let me watch the old ones. And I haven't found any perfect ones yet. The TV Guide app, Titan TV that I mentioned earlier, that will show you all the future shows and give you a guide to when they're on, but it doesn't tell you what the last ones were to let you watch them. So there's, I use TV.com for some of that. You put in your show name and it will tell you where you can stream it or where you can purchase it. But there's an app I've been playing with called TV Showtime. that seems to do a lot of it. So you put in the shows you like, and it knows all the episodes, and will jump to where you can stream that from whoever, from Netflix, from Hulu, directly from the publisher.
I'm just about done, but one thought that's going through my head is kind of a nostalgia for apple cider. And I remember when I first came, 30 years ago, something like that, people would come in, they were excited, and they were talking about things that a lot of people had no idea what they were. And, things were moving fast with computers back when Apple was, first Macintosh was coming out. And in some ways, we're like in that time again, because this whole thing about all these different apps on different devices interacting in novel ways, and it's all going to be changing very rapidly, like computers in general changed back then. So I'm kind of excited. Maybe there's a future for our clubs after all, helping us make sense of all this.
Cool. All right, so thank you, Bob.
Okay.
And we'll have you back in a couple of months and figure out what you've learned since then. Yeah. What is your name and password? Another new, it's not the Amazon Fire. Yeah, that's from Amazon, the Amazon Fire Stick.
Okay, so you're showing the wrong thing.
I'm showing your screen.
All right, I think it'll work
Oh,
now.
and now we need to aim the camera. And I think it's got to go down too. Yeah, that should do it.
Okay, good. All right, tonight I'm going to show you how to use the NeuroSky MindWave mobile headset to monitor brain waves and how to do other amazing things with it.
It's not working the way we want it to. I'm seeing your screen. I'm not seeing that screen. Oh. Let me switch to the other camera. How that works.
NeuroSky MindWave headset is a brainwave Bluetooth wireless electroencephalography biosensor headset. That's a mouthful. Which reads the tiny electrical impulses of the user's brain, or brain waves, and transmits that information to the user's computer or iOS device. This is how it's worn. Went the wrong way. Notice the forehead sensor that does all of the sensitive brainwave detection in real time. This ear clip acts as a ground reference point, which allows NeuroSky's computer chip to filter out all of the electrical noise from the body and from the ambient environment, so the device can better tune in on the user's brainwaves. There are over 100 apps available for this headset. Some are even free. They work on Macintosh computers, iPads, iPhones, PC computers. Please feel free to boo. And Android phones. You can boo again if you like. Don't just buy the headset by itself, because you can get the starter kit, which comes with 2 apps for the same price. The Brain Visualizer app shows what brain waves you are sending out in real time. And the Speed Math app helps you to learn how to concentrate better when doing math problems. There are apps which display your brain waves in the traditional way, and apps which can record your brain waves while you enjoy different experiences, such as listening to music, going for a walk, reading a book, eating, taking a nap. or having an argument with a friend about where you were going to dinner. This is a diagram of the headset that shows where all of the important physical features are located. The headset uses just one AAA battery, and that'll last for 8 hours. My headset was marked with the label showing the battery going in backwards. Just remember that the spring always indicates where the negative side of the battery goes, and everything will work just fine. First, let's review some basic brainwave fundamentals here. There are 5 basic brainwave types. They are defined by the shape and frequency of the waveforms produced. The lowest is called a delta wave, and it occurs between the 0.1 and 3 hertz frequency range. Next is the theta wave. That occurs between the 4 to 7 hertz range. Then the alpha wave, that is in the 8 to 15 hertz range. Next is the beta wave in the 16 to 31 hertz range. And finally, there is the gamma brain wave that is in the 32 to 100 hertz frequency range. I suppose if we had more sensitive hearing, we could hear the sounds that our brains make. Who knows what the frequency of the human ear can hear? That is correct, 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Yes, that's when we're very young, when we're children. And of course, that tapers off the older we get. The Brainwave Visualizer app adds some extra frequency wave channels for viewing the information from the user's brain. It basically has divided the alpha, beta, and gamma frequency bands into low and high categories. It then displays them in real time with a radial type graph showing the strength of each type of wave being measured. The visualizer also displays each of these brainwave frequency ranges in different colors so the user can receive better feedback on the performance of a given mental task. Notice the attention and meditation dial graphs which show the strength of those 2 mental tasks. To learn more about brainwave types and electroencephalography, please visit the www.wikipedia.org website, which has excellent information on those subjects. It certainly has much more information than I can go into for my presentation this evening. For those of you who like to look at specs on the biosensors, you can find that information on the NeuroSky website. Notice the headset can also detect eye blinks. This can be useful input to track in a research type game. For example, asking the user to blink 3 times when a true statement is presented to them. When you visit the NeuroSky website, be sure to check out the NeuroSky App Store, where you can find interesting apps, games, and more that work with the Brainwave headset. If you are an app developer, be sure to look at their developer webpage for information on their free software development kits, developer tools, frameworks, and application interface software. They will pay you 80% of whatever gets sold rather than Apple's 70% sales model. Your app won't get lost in the NeuroSky App Store like they do in the mountains of apps in the Apple Store either. There are software kits which will help you to interface with Arduino circuit boards so you can do cool things like this high school kid who created this prosthetic arm that he controls with his NeuroSky headset. Watch this new user control a Lego robot with her brainwaves. Wait a minute, I'm not sure that worked. Okay, Steve, help me out here.
Go back, not forward.
Well, I was trying to hit the link and the link didn't work. No, it's actually correct. This worked at home when I tested it. I'll tell you what, I'll just go directly. I've got to get out of this. I can go to here. Now put it in maybe. Now I've got to share it, right? I've got to change my display.
No, just move it to the other window.
Different things. All right. Except I've lost it now.
Command F1.
No, that didn't work. I
Command
lost
function
everything.
F1. What's your F key set to?
Command function.
Not Command Tab or Command. Yeah, Command Tab to switch to the other window.
Oh, that's really the wrong size. Well, let's see. What
You
happens.
want concentration.
Yes. He's actually thinking things more like meditate or pay attention or focus. What he's doing is he's watching where the robot is and what the course is. And let's say he wants to have it go forward. He might do something like concentrate, focus his attention. So he's producing one particular type of brainwave to do that. Yes, basically. So he does that so it goes forward. And then when he wants to turn it a direction, he might go, oh, I have to go into a meditative state for this. So he'll do that and the robot will turn and then he'll stop doing that and then concentrate again. Let's see, I think there's some other examples here. Yeah, basically that's what they've done. Mm-hmm. And of course you can use the eye blink thing too. You might say, oh, blink 3 times to stop. Well, a little bit, but the sensor, you know, that picks up on some of these things.
Aquí de la información es directamente el valor de la teta lo que coge teta ya. Y teta bien te hace una corrección con la teta de la automática. Entonces, estos dos valores, o sea, esa corrección sí la tengo que hacer aquí. Sí, esa corrección la tengo que hacer aquí, sí. Sin embargo, la lectura directamente de la misma. O sea, yo, la lectura de la línea es que la línea te da los valores como que te da los mismos valores que ahora conocíamos. ¿Sabes? Sí. Entonces, digamos que yo lo que puedo decir es, aquí en la línea tiene diferentes correcciones de
It's Bluetooth. The headset, you know, will talk to either your computer or to your iPad or your iPhone.
How do the commands get to the robot? Wi-Fi, probably.
Probably Wi-Fi over the computer, yeah. Let's see, I think I've got some more examples here. Oh, what did I do in the keynote? I'm sorry, command what?
Command Tab.
Yeah, all right.
There's some really quick, easy to use keyboard shortcuts. Command Tab lets you jump between windows, between applications. So you don't have to find it in your dock, just Command Tab and pick the application you want from the running list.
Right, here's a graduate student who controls a robotic arm with the MindWave headset. I'll try this one. Let's go to the page and see if that works.
Hi, this is Alfredo Guillen, a student at the University of Colorado Springs, thanks to the Balcells Graduate Fellowship. Today, I'm going to show you one of the applications of my master's thesis. It is the control of a robotic arm with my brainwaves. This is going to be done thanks to this device, the NeuroSky MindWave Mobile, which is an EEG biosensor that is able to read when I'm focusing, when I'm relaxing, or when I'm blinking. The robotic arm was built with the LEGO Mindstorms NXT kit, and the communication was done with MATLAB. So now I'm going to proceed to the demonstration. Okay, so what this is supposed to be doing is, when I focus, the arm is going to move up and down this way. When I relax, the arm is going to move sideways this way. And when I blink, the claws are going to grab the ball in this form. And then you'll see that the GUI that I built, there are 3 plots, one for attention, one for meditation, and one for EEG raw data, which is going to show my blinks in this way. And you'll also notice that focusing is easier to control than relaxing. So I may relax involuntarily and the arm may move sideways. So I'm going to proceed to run the program now. So now the program is running. I'm going to try to focus and move the arm down. Grab the ball. And now I'm going to try to move the arm sideways by relaxing. I'm going to try to make it go up again. I have to wait 20 seconds before focusing again. I relaxed again. Let's see if I get it up. Yeah. And now I'm going to drop the ball by blinking.
It wasn't a rubber ball.
So that's it.
This educator is demonstrating how he's able to control the movements of this helicopter here, which is made specifically for use with the NeuroSky MindWave headset.
Hard enough to control those with a joystick.
Yeah. I think he was doing that as a safety precaution.
He has to be concentrating. He has to be in a concentrating state, for example, to stay near the thing with his hand under it.
Mhm.
Yet do the relaxing thing at the same time.
Well, he probably isn't relaxing so much as focusing. He probably has it hooked up so, you know, when you focus, it turns on that blade and lifts it up.
Yeah.
And he's got to keep focusing as much.
But then
as
he's also
possible.
paying attention to the surroundings and moving his arms
That's
and legs.
true,
And
and he is multitasking. That's right. It's
Yeah.
a different part of your brain, and it's motor cortex. That's true. No, that's a good point. I think the problem with that is it's a Bluetooth device, and you have to pair it with whatever computer or iPad you want it to talk to.
only one device at a time.
So probably only one device at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think probably the helicopter uses Bluetooth as well. So probably there's only one controller at a time that can work with that. Now let me see where we're heading. It does. All right, well, if you want this helicopter, it comes with the headset. You can get it on Amazon.com for $189. If you just want to get the Brainwave starter kit, you can get that for $99.99. So, $100 plus tax, right? Which is what I did. And that's right here, and you're welcome to take a look at that at the end here. Sure. Here it is. The one part of that. Oh, you want the copter, huh? Okay. All right. And of course, you can get it on Amazon.com. And use the Apple Cider Amazon.com link. And remember, it doesn't cost you an extra penny. But yet the club gets, a donation from Amazon. All right, let's see if we can do a live demo of this thing now. Now here's the headset. And I think I need the iPad dongle here.
Which iPad is it? 30 pin or Lightning?
It's all right, I gotta put this on. Gotta use the ear clip. Screen. And the nice thing about this is it's a dry sensor. You don't have to use any gel or anything. I think you can only wear it the one way.
Maybe it just flips over.
Maybe the camera flipped. Yeah. All right, let me find an app here. Let's start off with all right. There we go. So you can see I'm generating a brainwave. And let's see, I've moved up these dials now. So you can see the attention dial and the meditation dial. And these things will fluctuate back and forth depending upon what I'm doing, whether I'm focusing or whether I'm talking or whether I'm looking at something on the screen. And yeah, I found that, if I want to meditate, it's best if I don't look at anything, kind of look at the black part of the screen so that I'm not so distracted. So you can see the different types of waves there in the radial pattern, and the colors indicate what the hertz are that I'm at, whether it's like a low alpha wave, or whether it's a beta wave, or whether it's a gamma wave that would be at the right end of the spectrum there in the purple. And in this app, you can click on various parts of it and it'll tell you a little bit about it. Yeah. I actually like the Mac version of this program better because they will give you some educational blurbs about the various brain waves and what they do and what they're used in. For instance, a delta wave is something that infants spend most of their time in because it's sleep. And as we get older, we produce less and less delta waves. And that's why a lot of us, don't sleep so much anymore as the older we get. Well, they're saying you could increase maybe your math speed. That's what that math app is about. You can go in and work on your addition and multiplication and things like that. Yeah, they were saying speed reading didn't work very well, yeah. They could, but on the other hand, it might be therapeutic for them if they sat down and did it. It would give them, yeah, it would be reinforcement of how to focus on something. And there's some other apps that are kind of interesting. There's this one that's called Card Gazer, and basically you're supposed to focus on it to reveal a card, and then you select the rank suit to clear the card. If you just raise your attention high enough, it'll clear the card automatically. And if you want to increase your amount of time, you clear 3 or more cards in a row before the play time goes away, and it'll give you more time. So I'll try that one out. And what I want to do here is try to pay more attention. So you'll see that line go up as I start to focus more and more. And you'll see the cards will change and reveal themselves. And right now, apparently, I'm pretty relaxed. Okay, let's see what I can do about this. Well, I'm just burning that thing up. All right. So I'll try to do it again here. And you want to try to get through as many cards as you can.
Hold your hands up.
That's not easy. Yeah, that's right. So that was kind of fun. Let's see, there's another one here. This one I think is, well, maybe I should look at the brain starter one first. Let's see, is this the one I wanted? This just shows a basic raw data and whether or not you're getting a good signal from the headset. That's not the one I wanted. Let's see what else I got. Oh, this is a Mind. This was interesting. I think this one only runs in demo mode though at the moment. but it shows all of the different waves all at once. And some of these you can also record as well. So like if you decided you want to go to sleep and then look at your brainwave data later, you could. Now this is kind of a much tougher game, and I've got to give us some sound here. All right, now in this game, it uses both attention focus and meditation. And use your focus to charge up your various weapons that you're going to use against the incoming missiles. You want to defend the Earth from these missiles that are coming in, or alien asteroids. It's kind of like an asteroids game, basically. And then you're also given a shield that you can use to shield the planet if you're meditating well. And so you charge up the shield by meditating. So you got to switch between these two things. I can show you the current level I'm at on this. Now on the left, what I'm doing is I'm trying to focus, and you see that, you know, the brain thing is going and it's glowing and it's charging up my weapons. And I better focus here. I'm going to be gone. Uh-oh. I'm going to lose my planet. Okay, I was able to meditate well enough and use my shield. All right, I got to shift back. All right. So rocket after that one. It's too late on that one. And then there's like a big mine type missile that I can get rid of a lot of these things with. I don't think it's my heartbeat. Uh-oh, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I got my shield on too late. Yeah. Yeah, meditation is relaxing.
We got about 10 minutes left. Can you try turning mirroring on your iPad? Mirror to the CIDER book. Swipe up from the bottom.
Oh, it's an airplane.
Yeah, AirPlay. Are you on the CIDERnet Wi-Fi?
Oh, maybe not.
I just found an app that will put your iPad on my computer.
Oh,
Or your computer too, so we don't need screen time.
Oh, no wonder.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's find the CIDER one. No. I don't know if the CIA tries to beam, you know, gamma waves at you, you know, will your brain pick it up? I don't know. Yeah, that's why everybody wears the foil hat. All right, so,
Now swipe up from the bottom.
okay, and we'll see if the AirPlay is there now.
CIDER book.
CIDER book. And mirror?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's working.
All right, so that's going out over the air now?
As soon as I switch cameras,
Okay.
which I can't do while you're mirroring, so I have to do it first.
All right, any other questions? No? Well, I was interested in finding out things about biofeedback and about meditation. And I was trolling the internet and I found that they had a device that, you know, would help you with that biofeedback. And I thought, yeah, I should try it out. You know, it's $100. And there's a bunch of apps out there that are free. And not only that, but, you know, being an app developer, I thought, I ought to take a hard look at this. Oh yeah, that would be an interesting idea, Todd. Yeah. You know, I just, you know, have had this maybe a week and a half, so I'm like Bob over there, just starting to discover the new things and what's exciting about it.
That's a lot better. So there's your iPad on my computer through the projector.
Yeah.
And getting full quality through the internet.
All right, well, that's what we'll do in the future then.
And then your computer, you can do the same thing, AirPlay to mine.
Mhm.
And that will go out over the internet and the projector.
Good.
Cool.
All righty, well, that's all I had. Thank you very much for coming. We'll see you next month.
And don't forget that, let me get back to my homepage here. Saturday at 1 o'clock at the JCC Tech Age Computer Learning Center will be, I'm sorry, at 1 o'clock is the iWork study group at, oh wait, 1 or noon? One-ish, yeah. At Bob's house. And then at 3 o'clock at the JCC will be our Q&A meeting. And every Saturday on Jazz 90.1 FM at noon, from noon to 2, is the Sound Bites radio show, where you can call in and ask questions there as well. We've been on the air as soon as it comes up. I think we're starting our 27th year on the air. Longest running computer show that we know about. Yeah, 26 years, 8 months. So Labor Day will be 27 years. Alrighty, thank you much. No, just once on that one, I think. Yeah, yes, double on that one. All right. And thank you all for coming. We'll shut down our broadcast.